Hello Internet, and welcome to another episode of the Sunday Sketch. It is about 10:20-ish on a Sunday, beautiful Sunday morning, and today we are going to go over how to draw a Goron. So again, I'm really just, at the moment, covering my tracks here, breaking down each of the races of the champions, right? Because that was definitely requested a few times, like do an actual how-to video. So anyway, hopefully y'all enjoy this and y'all can draw along with the video, or at least get some useful information out of it. I will be trying to draw the champion, and so he's got his own set of things that are specific to him, right? But I'm going to go over just generic Goron traits as well, because every Goron has them. So, and Gorons have actually changed a little bit. Since Twilight Princess, because before they were a lot more geometric, a lot rounder. But ever since Twilight Princess, they've actually had, the full range of, humanoid anatomy. They've had shoulders. They've had their rib cage has been more defined. Their body proportions have been more defined. They actually have hips now. They didn't really have hips before, I feel like. Or they did, but not as clearly defined. And I can show you what I mean. But first, let's just jump into it, I guess. So first, as always, we want to take a look at our reference, or we want to get reference, I should say. So we're going to set up our reference plane, just like that. And here we actually have a really nice lineup of all the champions. And, as you can see, last week we went over Rito, and all of the different parts of a Rito that I drew in that video are present here on Rivali, even though the pose is a little bit different. I think looking at this, I could do the legs a little bit differently, but it's all a learning process. And again, this is Sunday Sketch, so you refine as you go. But the sketch part will give you the basics you need to build off of, right? So that's what we're looking for here, is just get you guys started, get you guys on the right track to drawing your own art for Gorons. So here we go. First thing I want to do is I want to figure out where all the body parts are, right? So we look at this guy, and obviously his big old head is right here, and it is a big old circle because he's got a chin under there. This right here, that's a beard. He's got a chin under there. He's got a mouth right there, so he's got to have more to his head than that, right? This is a nipple, which means this right here is his pectoral muscle, right? Because that's how that works. And from there, we can also, work to extrapolate where his rib cage is, right? So we can look at it like, oh, okay, so if that's where his pectoral muscle is, then his rib cage must be here. Um, so his rib cage is approximately here, right? Um, and then, of course, his shoulders are very definitely here and here. Big old fists. This is the very bottom of his pelvis, or the most protruding part of his pelvis, his groin area. Also, he's got a big old belly button right there. But I want to focus in on the groin because that gives us a way to determine where his pelvis is and where his hips are, right? So if we just come out from the groin to about where his legs are, that is probably what his pelvis looks like, or is about maybe not looks like, but it's about that location, right? Gorons actually may have a pelvis more like a cat, or in, I suppose, technical, maybe more like an armadillo, so that they can curl up. And so actually where our pelvis is more three-dimensional and round, right? Like a lot of animals' pelvises are more flat. Not completely flat, but more flat. And also, raised up. And that would allow the Gorons to curl up and roll, but I'm not trying to debate the logic of the character designs, really, just trying to copy them to an extent. So, but I would expect them to have flatter pelvises, which may seem odd, but that's me. So anyway, then we've got, obviously there's a knee here. You can see the shadow from it. There's probably a knee here, just based on the way the leg kind of connects there, right? And then his big old foot. Big old foot, right? And then we're going to do that same thing where we give him these big old hams for thighs, by connecting from where we are assuming his hips are to the knee. And then also going into the groin from the knee, right? And that gives you a nice shape to build off of. And then of course you've got your calves, which in this case are kind of just two sets of ovals smushed up against the the bone. Once you figure out that front bone piece, and the shadow gives you a huge hint on this particular image. So, but the important part is we've decided where the body parts are, so now we can look at where is the geometry for us to follow, right? So one, definitely there. Another is going to be here. He's actually got high shoulders in proportion to his head. His head is very low to the rest of his body, right? So that's where his ribcage circle thing is going to be. And then that one will be his hips. And then if you want, you can do, the gut, right? But we'll go into that in a second anyway. So that's kind of the skeleton that we have established, right? So gonna come off to the side. And we're just gonna draw it really as best we can. Get started. We already have our shapes, so we're gonna have a circle here for the head, and I'm drawing it smaller just because I tend to draw smaller anyway. a big circle for the rib cage, and then we're going to go way down. Oop. And, you know, try to measure it out a little bit, and we're going to give him the pelvis, right? From there, we're going to decide his hips are in here, and then his legs are in here. And he's got real short legs, people. Gorons have real short legs. And I like to draw these wedge shapes for the foot because you get the top of the foot, you get the you get a lot of the foot just by doing a wedge. And you can act like it's a three-dimensional wedge like I just did, turn it sideways, right? So anyway, then we're going to come up here and we're actually going to draw 2 more circles for the shoulders, because he's got big pronounced shoulders, right? And so that's where the shoulders are going to be. I do apologize a little bit for my voice this morning. I don't know, I'm usually not too much of a morning person, but just scheduling, I had to get the video in this early. That's why I've been waiting till like about noon to do these videos previously. In any case, so now we have our skeleton for our Goron, right? And one thing that you may have noticed is that Gorons also have ridiculous forearms, which is another trait they have in common with the Rito, right? So we'll get back in here, and we'll give them, you know, a reasonable bicep, right? Which again, if you kind of measure it, your own bicep and down to your elbow, from your shoulder to your elbow, is going to be roughly that your elbow should hit roughly your the bottom of your rib cage, give or take. So that's kind of the measuring stick that I use, right? And we built that big circle for the rib cage. So we're going to give him an elbow. And then we're going to give him, because you see his fists, we'll look at the reference again for this, but you see that his fists very nearly hit the ground. They come all the way down to his ankles. It's amazing. I don't, honestly, based on the anatomy that I'm looking at, I have no idea how they curl up into balls other than magic. I mean, really, if you think about it. Let's scoot this over a little bit. There we go. So I'm not out of frame. Production values, what are those? So we're going to draw in a line at about ankle height. And then I'm going to draw a line down to the ankle. And all Gorons have these proportions, not just the champion. You can, of course, use this to just draw the champion, but the things that make Daruk the champion versus other, just any other Goron, is mostly his fantastic, glorious beard and mane and his mustache, all the hair and stuff. That's what sets him apart from other Gorons, because if you look at most other Gorons, they just have a little, their hair or whatever it is just comes to a little point on the top. Honestly, I am almost convinced that, or I was, that they were like keratin fingernail spike protrusions, but they may actually be hair just based on the way they modeled it in Breath of the Wild, right? But in any case, back to the arms, right? So he's got these giant fists at the end of these arms. and then these big old Popeye the Sailor arms. And actually, let me correct myself, because I don't think all Gorons have the big Popeye arms, just the named ones. I want to say, because it occurred to me I've definitely seen Gorons with little tiny arms. Oh, no. In Breath of the Wild, they all have the giant Popeye arms. I think I might be thinking of Ocarina of Time Gorons, because there were definitely one of the differences between the Gorons there was the overall shape. They had much thinner arms, and then you had Darunia, who had the big Popeye arms. But he also had this fantastic mane like Daruk, which is cool. So yeah, in Breath of the Wild, they all have great big old Popeye arms. You can Google it. You can fact check me on that. But even the old guy with the eye patch and the again, why I'm kind of convinced that it is actually hair is he's got big old droopy hair, right? That's like gathered. So I'm pretty convinced that it is hair on the Gorons. He's also got this little mustache, which is hilarious, I think. But he has big old Popeye arms. So in any case, we're gonna give our Gorons big old Popeye arms, right? Popeye the Sailor Man. So the next part that all Gorons have in common is, of course, the gut. Even Darunia, who is apparently ripped for a Goron, has a gut, a big old belly. So there we go. The next thing, of course, is to start refining. We have our skeleton, and now we're going to start building on it, right? So this is the part where we look at specifics. Like before when we were doing the retail, you want to look, you want to save the details for when you need them, right? That's what I think anyway. And we don't need the details right up front. We just need the skeleton. Because then we can use this base for like any Goron you want to draw. You want to draw the Goron from, one of the Goron traders that's just walking around? Do it. You want to draw the Goron from Skyward Sword? The archaeology Goron, who is such a bro. I love him so much. He's one of my favorite Gorons of all time. Just because, like, he's a very inquisitive, very, like, intellectual Goron, which is not something you see on the regular. I think it's really cool. Not that Gorons are all dumb, but most Gorons aren't concerned with, or at least you don't see most Gorons concerned with intellectual pursuits like that. Plus, having him there as a recurring character and, kind of not know what's going on necessarily while you're off doing Skyward Sword stuff, it's just, I think he's a lot of fun. Anyway, go ahead and draw him, right? So we're going to go ahead and give my Goron a face. And we're doing this in a new what do you call it? New layer. And I'm actually widening his face a bit because Gorons, they do tend to have this like onion oval shaped face. You know, the onion part is of course where the hair kind of comes to a point like that. But I'm actually going to go ahead and try to draw Daruk, or at least Darunia, and give him the fantastic flowing mane. So now we're going to go into some of the specifics, right? So the first thing you notice is, of course, his giant eyes. His just giant, round, beady eyes. So we're going to figure out, okay, where are we putting the eyes? And we're just going to put the eyes there. And the eyes are actually pretty spaced out. He's got Baymax eyes. You know, you just Baymax. There you go. That's not Baymax. Anyway, although that being said, they also have these huge lips, and his mouth actually does extend past his eyes. What you'll notice on a lot of people, anyway, is that the mouth, the edge of the corner of the mouth, doesn't usually extend past the eye on people, right? So if you look on me, right, the corner of my mouth is right here, and that's the inside of my eye that it basically lines up with, which is another good way to mark faces, right? That looked silly, but information for you guys, right? Goron mouths are really wide. They stretch across their whole face. So we gonna give him a big ol' mouth. And then the nose has actually been there the whole time. For a long time, I didn't think Gorons had a nose, but they had those two little holes in the front of their face, and I thought that was it. But apparently that is supposed to be part of a nose, because, you know, you can see nostrils, right? And so it's just that their noses are turned up, essentially. So they actually do have little pointy noses. Little pointy noses. So, and of course we can see this on Daruk. He does not have a tiny or pointed nose. But we're going to give our Goron a littler nose, right? So we're going to just come in here. And give him a little classic Goron nose. And the nose on Gorons is always close to the mouth. And if you're drawing them with big old lips, it's going to be basically right on top of the lips. Because if I come in here, watch this, okay? So Darunia, his nose is dangerously close to his mouth, right? So if I come in here and I want to give him big ol' mama kissing lips, then, you know, then his nose is like right there, right? So the nose is practically on top of the mouth. Not exactly on top of the mouth, but it's real close, and you can see that there. So the next bit is the eyebrows. Now, not every Goron has the most luxurious, amazing eyebrows like Daruk has. The Ocarina of Time Gorons had little tiny eyebrows, little, they were narrow. And the Twilight Princess Gorons, I believe, continued that trend. Let me find a reference. Twilight Princess Gorons. Bam. Okay, so no. The Twilight Princess Gorons actually had... Oh, that's interesting. They actually also had rocks for hair instead of the the actual hair that seems to be going on in not Skyward Sword. You know the one, the new one. Breath of the Wild. There it is. They also had weird rock nipples. That's really weird. Anyway, rock hair, rock nipples. But they still had the same wide faces, eyes set far apart, little tiny pointed noses, and big old mouths that took up all of their face. So that they have in common. So I think I want to give my Goron some good old solid eyebrows. So I'm going to come in here, and we're not going to be using our text tool. And we're just going to give him these fantastic eyebrows that don't match. Let's try to fix that. There we go. So now he's got these great eyebrows, and you can kind of, extrapolate from that, okay, that's basically what his face looks like. That's the bridge of his nose would be there. All that good stuff. Although I did say I wanted to try and draw Daruk. But I think that was just for the beard. But anyway, I'll give it a try. So Daruk's eyebrows actually go up. And they're pretty fantastic. Although, I don't want to redo the nose. Let's just keep this train rolling. Daruk's eyebrows, of course, come up off his face, right? Like that. And I'll redo the nose if I've got time. I don't want to backtrack too much. I want to keep this moving so I can get you guys as much of this kind of information as I can, right? But anyway, from the bridge of the nose, you can kind of gauge, okay, so this is like half their face right there. And that's important because in the next part, we're going to do the hair. And for a normal Goron, the hair kind of does this number, right? And it just comes up. You're going to pretend this is a 3D object. And the hair is going to come up to a point up here. Now, for the Twilight Princess Gorons, they actually have like this widow's peak, and you kind of make it look rocky all the way around their heads. But for Darunia, or sorry, Daruk, Darunia, he's got these big old, like, kind of looks like pipings of frosting. He's got this big old soft serve ice cream Jimmy Neutron hair, right? And so then we're going to come down here, and we're going to give him another one. And that's all you're doing here, folks, is just giving him these, like, this is the shape, right? Circle, draw a little curvy triangle on it. That's the shape that we're going for with his hair. And you want to look, if you want to draw Daruk specifically, you want to look, okay, he's got one in the middle, 2, 3 of those, right, before his mustache. And one of them is like right behind his eyebrows on both sides. And then, of course, you get into the beard. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to go, we've got 1, we've got 2, we've got 3, right? And we could do the mustache too. His mustache, of course. Watch where his mustache comes in. It's at the ends of it, or on the sides of his nose. It doesn't come in right under his nose. So we're gonna come here, and it goes out real far. So we're gonna come here. And we're gonna give him a glorious mustache, except we're drawing on the wrong layer again. There we go. Come in here. Give him the mustache he deserves. The mustache of glory. It's almost glorious. And then we'll finish his soft serve ice cream hair. And of course, as you get further down, his hair is going to be sweeping more towards the back, so you kind of got to treat that accordingly. You're going to end up with something like that, right? Let's come in here. Let's erase that. Let's erase that. Clean it up a little bit. And then his chin kind of has the same thing going on, but they're kind of scooped forward, right? So they're more like, think of them more like sharp teeth. Almost, right? Coming up from his beard. So we're going to go to the front of his face, which is right there. And we're going to kind of scoop it forward, because this is where it contacts his face, and this is the point that it ends at, and so we're just going to connect those two, right? That same foreshortening strategy that I've been using. So it connects with his face, scoop kind of forward, connect the dots. So we're going to do that for a few more of his beardy protrusions. And fade this out a little more so you guys can make sure you guys can see this well. And actually, this should go all the way up to, oops, wrong layer. This should go all the way up to about mustache level, roughly. Almost looks like bananas. I look like I'm drawing bananas on his face. But the beard definitely actually like contacts his big old bottom lip there. And I should probably give him a bigger bottom lip. Just based on what I'm seeing of the character. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. And then continue drawing his sharp tooth banana facial hair. So now, if we look at our reference again, he's got more hair in here, but it's not really well defined, or as well defined, right? So we're gonna just come in and give him kind of that finishing touch. And that's all there is to him, face-wise. I mean, he's got some more details in the center of his face. But let me take care of the nose first, because his nose is a lot wider. He's got a almost like a pig nose. Kind of like that. And then we can also see, if you follow his eyebrows and you just kind of extend them, his whole face kind of leads into this almost like a foo dog face. And then he's got some detailing there. And this kind of area sort of opens up into where his hair is anyway. So there we kind of have Daruk's face. Kinda. It's, again, not perfect, but the more I practice, the more I work on getting the right shapes in the right places, and using that reference, the closer it'll get to looking like Daruk's actual face, right? So in any case, this is a good place to start. Just understanding how the shapes all fit together, and going from there. So the next part of Daruk that we're going to draw is actually not the clothes at all. We're going to try and do him without the clothes. We're going to try and draw him without the clothes. That came out wrong. Apologies, Internet. But there are certain landmarks and things that we can kind of imagine without the clothes on, for art purposes, right? So we got his rib cage. We got the center of his head's like right there, and we can kind of figure, okay, so this is where his pectoral muscles are going to come in. You know, on his rib cage. And they're big, they're very wide. He's got a very wide body, right? Cuz his nipple's right there. And you know, yeah, draw the nipples, why not? But then if you look, he's got this very interesting, he's actually got like fanned out little hair, like a collar, right? Almost, or like a I don't know, like they almost look like leaves or something. So we're gonna take that center line, and we're gonna give him some chest hair. So we're gonna go center line, and then we're gonna come off like that, and that, and that, and that. And we're just gonna give him that fanned out sort of chest hair he's got going on. Now, let's build up the shoulders, now that we've decided where his chest is. First off, because his chest is here, right, and his pectorals are here, right, we can decide, okay, his clavicle is probably in here. Clavicle is your collarbone, for those of you watching. So it's gonna be this bit right here, right? So we're gonna draw that in, and then that'll help us determine, okay, so if his collarbone's there, his head's here, then his neck is in there somewhere. But Gorons have notoriously tiny necks, sometimes no necks. And so we're just going to go straight into drawing his shoulders, right? So his shoulders are going to be, you know, they're going to be human-shaped, or very rounded, anyway, if not totally human-shaped. And so we're going to draw them, because there's the muscle group behind the muscle group on your back that feeds into your shoulder, that's what we're seeing right up here. So I like to take, basically you take a line from where the neck is to where the shoulder is, and that's going to be a muscle at some point. And then we draw the shoulders. So already it's starting to come together pretty well. Now, the way we did biceps before was, again, to take, you know, like about halfway up the shoulder. Now, Goron's shoulders are shaped a little bit differently, so I'm going to treat the biceps a little bit differently. And if we look at our reference, they're pretty much just big old barrel arms, right? So we're just going to take from the shoulder, and we're just going to give him, you know, a big old barrel shape. And then towards the side, you can draw a little detail in there to kind of help separate the muscle groups. And that can help you with shadows, lights and shadows and things like that. And we're going to do the same for the other side. Just give him a big old sausage meat tube arm thing. And there you go. So the next part, and probably the hardest part, is going to be doing the gut. Because from here, you know, the arms are pretty easy from here, but we want to establish the rest of the actual body first. So what I like to do is, if you look at a lot of references, the arm, and if you look at your own arm, right, your arm actually, you've got like more back that you can kind of see after your arm is attached, right? So you got like your pectoral, you've got your arm, you've got your armpit and all of that, but then you've also got, you know, the back part of your armpit, basically. And if you look at a lot of like superhero references, bodybuilders, things like that, part of their muscles and rib cage comes out there too, and you can see it. I've got it marked here on the reference, right here, because his arm actually connects like that right in there, and so he's actually got this muscle group coming up from behind. So that's what we're drawing now. Right? So that looks like it curves all the way down to the end of where his, I guess, rib cage would be. The actual rib cage. The circle part is just to give us a general idea of where the rib cage would be, right? So we're going to come in and we're going to fill out this rib cage shape. Pardon me again. Voice is a little dry. And Daruni actually has kind of an interesting shape here. You see this in some people and some creatures in general, because you know it's not like a six-pack or anything, but it is an abdominal, right? And so he does actually have that same abdominal plate that goes all the way down to his crotch. That abdominal panel, like we saw with when I was drawing the Rito, like you'll see in a lot of human anatomy books, you've got this front part, right? But the difference for him and for some of us is that is that the abdominal panel has kind of expanded because we've gotten fat. basically. That's all there is to it. So, sorry again. So we're actually going to expand that outward, right? And we can see the gut on Daruk, at least, overlaps a lot of his pelvis. So his gut actually hangs down, right? So you can still see his ribs. You can still see part of his abs. He's kind of ripped, you know. He's very muscular for having such a big gut, which does happen in real life too. But we're giving him this big old belly. And kind of giving him the idea of having more muscles in that, because he's muscular towards the top, but you can see the this this detailing and stuff. You can see the muscle definition kind of fade as you go down towards the belly. And then, of course, his belly button is an Audi, because he's got a big old round cartoon belly button just hanging out there. So the next bit, of course, is to add the hips, and the pelvis. So his hips are here, and actually looking at this, I think I've made Daruk considerably thinner and possibly taller than he is in the game. So we're going to actually do an adjustment, because again, there's no shame in having to fix stuff as you go. It's always, if you're not learning, then you're stagnating. So we're going to bring his hips up a little bit from here where they were to up here. So this is his new hip part. And actually, that is about even with his belly button, which is kind of funny. So let's take our underdrawing and actually just move it up just a little bit, because I think the leg proportion is fine. So I want to keep that, right? So then we're going to come in here and we're going to give him the big old meaty thighs. And see, again, you may notice I'm not drawing him with any clothes on, because anatomy is so much more important. Once you get the base anatomy, I could dress him any way I want. I could even, just leave him in no clothes like this if I wanted to. I'm gonna draw his clothes, probably. Hi, cat. I'm gonna draw his clothes, but having the understanding of the anatomy underneath the clothes will help you in your own work, if you want to draw your own Goron, especially, to decide, okay, what kind of clothes is he gonna wear? How does that actually fit on his body, right? Because if I didn't have this understanding of, okay, this is where his gut is, this is where his, especially the gut, I wouldn't be able to draw how the clothes interact with the shape of his body, right? So anatomy is always number one. So if you're drawing naked characters, it's not a bad thing. I mean, definitely put some clothes on them when you have the time, but drawing them naked and especially, when I was doing when I'm taking art classes, and we'd have the nudes come in, and we'd have these nude models, and it wasn't sexual or anything. It didn't get weird. It was just learning human anatomy and being able to see the human form um, make different poses and different shapes and understanding, how it all works together. That's what that is about. And so I definitely was a little shy about it at first because seeing other people naked is weird. Um, but at one point it just kind of clicked, and I kind of stopped looking at them like they were a naked person and looked at it more like, oh, what shapes are on this body that I can draw and copy and learn. Um, so don't be afraid of that. Don't make it weird. It doesn't have to be weird. I'm drawing him naked, but it doesn't have to be weird. I mean, if you want it to be weird, then sure, that's you. Um, but it doesn't have to be weird. And again, I'm gonna put clothes on my guy after I'm done here. With the base, right? Um, so this is fine. Okay. So that was probably more information than you needed. Well, I don't know. Hopefully that's useful to somebody out there. My little rant on why drawing naked is good. But and hopefully that doesn't weird too many people out. But that's why they have those art classes where they'll draw, nude models and stuff. There are jokes about it. There's a lot of the time you'll see, on TV, they'll make. Sometimes they'll make a big deal out of it. Sometimes it'll just sort of be there in part of the episode. I've definitely seen it in some TV shows, but it doesn't have to be weird because you're just studying how the human body fits together. Now, one thing I've noticed is I think I made the Popeye arms a little long because I think his fists are a whole lot bigger than I expected. And I also think that the Popeye arms actually are wider too. So I'm gonna fix that right now. I'm gonna give him big, wide Popeye arms and then big, big Hulk hand fists. Right? And so how I'm doing the fist here. I'll show you. Break it down for you, kind of, right? Is this part here is the front of your hand, right? Hands are the worst to draw, just hands down. Hands down. Hands are the worst to draw. So what you do is you break it up into shapes, right? So you've got your base, which is kind of this shape, right? And you cut off the thumb. Cut off the thumb for this. So you have this shape right here, right? And then it kind of has this curve thing going on, but that's not as important, right? And then you add this, right? And so to add the thumb, I just pop a little triangle on the side that comes to about halfway up the hand, right? My thumb actually, your thumb is actually attached a lot further back, but because there's this fleshy part in there, having that triangle shape actually doesn't hurt you at all. So then you basically have your thumb knuckle at the end of that, and the thumb actually only has like two knuckles that you have to pay attention to, because one of them is back by your wrist. Or the other thing that could be considered a knuckle is back by your wrist. So in any case, the thumb only really has two knuckles. And you break it up into segments like that, see? And you do the same thing with your fingers, right? You go 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers, and you look, okay, the pinky is really short, and it doesn't even come up to on me anyway. It doesn't even come up to my ring finger second knuckle. But anyway, so I'm gonna draw in the knuckles and draw in the shapes, right? And just block it in by segment, because your fingers are just you have these knuckles that really help break it up geometrically, and you can be like dot 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 and then just connect the dots. It's really, really great. But hands are pretty much the worst to draw, because there's so many different positions that you can put your hand in. I can do like this, and then what are you gonna draw there? I don't know. Weird shapes can come out of the hand, but in this case it's a fist. And so all I'm doing is I'm taking this panel shape, right? I'm just kind of turning it sideways a little bit, or in this case, I guess this side, right? And so then I have this block here, and then this is kind of a block, and then I'm drawing it in chunks. So I've got this block is the palm, and then the palm attaches to this, which is the thumb, and then this is the fingers, and they curl up and make a fist. Fists are, and then of course I'm gonna erase some of the lines, and it's gonna end up looking basically like that. Fists are a super easy and way to draw hands, and you can kind of shorthand. You can shorthand hands. You can shorthand fists a little bit, and people will still understand that, oh, that is a fist. So, again, Goron's bigger Popeye arms than I had anticipated. So you want to bloat that out nice and big. Just balloon that. And then give him a nice big fist. And again, fist is just palm, thumb, curly fingers. That's the quick and dirty way to do it. You can get more detailed, you can get less detailed if you really want. Whatever is gonna suit your needs. And again, hands suck, so you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And that's it. We have completed the base of a Goron. I didn't have to draw the chest hair in here. The shoulder hair, if you look on Darunia here, it follows that same pattern where it like attaches here and then comes off in this kind of swoop, right? So it's still just oval and curly, kind of curly triangles. And all of his hair does that, because he's got forearm hair as well. From here it's just detailing, but we basically have a Goron from the front. From the side, they're a little trickier because they kind of have this turtle shell thing going on, which is another. I feel like that'd be another video entirely. If you would like to see me break down the Goron anatomy some more, I can always do another one of these how-to videos, and we can look at Gorons from a side view and everything. If that's going to help you out, of course, leave a comment. Let me know what you would like to see me break down next. I have planned to do some more how-to videos on the other champion races. I know. But it does cause he's just, I mean, oh man, yeah. Let's not talk about his genitals right now. Anyways, that's gonna be it for my time. We've hit an hour. If you want to see me break down any more characters, let me know. I'm gonna hit the Zora next, and then move on to the Gerudo. Gerudo is mostly facial structure anyway, but I will be doing breakdowns of every single champion race in Breath of the Wild, and maybe even some monsters if you'd like to see that. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to see me break down any other characters in particular. Of course, I'm always looking for that feedback. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was helpful to you. Go out and draw some Gorons, and not their Goron genitals, or do, but don't show me that, because I don't want to see it. I don't want to think about it. And I will catch you guys tomorrow for my last Let's Play of summer break. Again, hope you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.